The first time the warning came, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a promise. "You can leave now," the officer said softly, almost politely, "or stay, and I'll make sure you regret it." Lena Morales stood frozen on her front lawn, the early morning heat already pressing into her skin. Her fingers trembled around the garden hose. She had heard those words before, not exactly like this, but close enough to recognize what they meant. This wasn't about a hose. This wasn't about a code violation. This was about her home. And the man standing in front of her already believed it belonged to someone else. Across the street, unseen by both of them, a man in a faded gray shirt pressed record. The neighborhood of Willow Bend hadn't changed much in 30 years. Tall trees still shaded the sidewalks. The houses were modest but cared for. Flowers grew where people planted them, not for show, but because they mattered. Lena's house sat in the center of it all. Blue shutters, a narrow stone path leading to the porch, a garden her mother had spent decades nurturing. Her father had built the walkway himself. She could still remember handing him stones when she was 6 years old. That house wasn't just a structure. It was memory. It was history. It was everything she had left. And for 6 weeks, someone had been trying to take it. Officer Marcus Hale arrived for the 3rd time that morning. Same slow patrol car. Same deliberate walk. Same cold eyes scanning her home like it was already scheduled for demolition. "You're violating city code again," he said, nodding toward the hose. Lena didn't move. "That hose is within legal distance," she replied, voice steady but tight. Hale stepped closer. "Too close." "Doesn't matter," he murmured. "I decide what matters." Her breath caught. He leaned in slightly, voice lowering. "I can make one call, one inspection. After that, this place gets flagged." He glanced at her roof, her windows. Old houses don't pass inspections easily. She knew what he was doing. He wanted her scared. And it was working. "You don't have the money to fight this," he added. "You don't have the time, and you definitely don't have anyone backing you." His lips curved faintly. "Sell now while you still can." Across the street, Adrian Cole had already seen enough. He wasn't supposed to get involved. That was the rule he lived by now. But rules had a way of breaking when something felt wrong. And this felt very wrong. He stood still beside his German shepherd, Titan. Titan wasn't barking. He wasn't moving. But the low sound building in his chest told Adrian everything he needed to know. Danger. Real danger. Adrian didn't hesitate. He stepped forward. He crossed the street calmly. No rushing. No shouting. Just presence. He placed himself between Lena and the officer like it was the most natural thing in the world. Hale took half a step back. Just one. But it was enough. "I think we're done here," Adrian said quietly. Hale studied him. Then the dog. Then back again. Something shifted. Not fear exactly, but uncertainty. "You don't know what you're stepping into," Hale muttered. Adrian didn't respond. He didn't need to. Hale exhaled sharply, turned and walked back to his cruiser. But before he left, he looked at Lena one last time. "This isn't over." Then he drove away. Lena stood there shaking. For the first time in weeks, someone had stepped in. Someone who didn't look afraid. Adrian turned to her. "You okay?" She let out a breath. I don't know." He nodded once, then held up his phone. The recording was still running. "He won't know about this," Adrian said. "Not yet." That night everything changed. Lena sat at her kitchen table, watching the video. Every word. Every threat. every calculated move. It was worse than she remembered, because now she could see it clearly. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was strategy. And she wasn't the first target. Over the next few days, pieces began to fall into place. Neighbors who had sold suddenly made sense. Strange visits, pressure, warnings, then offers. Always below market value. Always fast. Always final. A development company had been buying properties across the neighborhood. One by one. Block by block. And the ones who refused, they got visits. Like Lena. Adrian didn't say much. But he watched everything. Every patrol. Every movement. Every interaction. And he recorded it all. He didn't rush. Didn't confront. Didn't escalate. He built something far more dangerous. Proof. 3 days later, Lena found a brochure in her mailbox. A polished rendering of a new housing complex. Modern. Clean. Efficient. Right where her neighborhood used to be. She scanned the image. Found her street. Followed the curve of it. Her house wasn't there. Neither was her neighbor. They had already erased her. On paper, she didn't exist anymore. That was the moment something inside her shifted. Fear turned into something colder. Something sharper. Resolve. The breaking point came on Sunday morning. Her father called. His voice was tight. "Someone filed an inspection request on your house," he said, "using my name." Lena froze. "I didn't do it," he added quickly. "They're pushing for condemnation." The word hit like a hammer. Condemnation meant forced sale. It meant losing everything. Legally. Permanently. Within hours, Adrian had answers. Connections between the officer and the development company. Shared contracts. Coordinated inspections. A pattern too clean to ignore. This wasn't just corruption. It was a system. Designed. Planned. Executed. And then they found the emails. A construction worker named Ray came forward quietly. He had kept records. Didn't know why at the time. But something had felt wrong. The emails were clear. Accelerate vacancy. Coordinate enforcement. Target resistant properties. Lena's address was listed. Status resistant. Action accelerate. She stared at the screen. He hadn't chosen her randomly. He had studied her. Calculated her. Marked her. New widow, one note read. No legal support, easy. Lena didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just sat there. And understood. They had made one mistake. They thought she was alone. By the time the inspection day arrived, everything was ready. Evidence compiled. Lawyers alerted. Federal contacts engaged. Quietly. Carefully. Precisely. At 9:02 a.m., the inspection truck turned onto her street. At 9:03 it stopped. At 9:04 it turned around and left. Without knocking. Without stepping out. Without even trying. Because 2 unmarked federal vehicles were waiting at the end of the block. And everything had already changed. Within hours, the investigation went public. The officer was suspended. The development company denied everything. Then distanced themselves. Then blamed others. Then collapsed under the weight of the evidence. A list was found in Hale's desk. 14 names. 14 targets. Each one chosen for weakness. For vulnerability. For silence. Lena's name had 7 words next to it. New widow, no support, easy target. She read it once, then again, then set it down. They picked the wrong house, she said quietly. 3 weeks later, Willow Bend looked the same. Same trees, same sidewalks, same homes. But something had shifted. People talked more, watched more, stood together. Lena still watered her garden every morning. Same routine, same place. But now when she looked across the street, Adrian was there. Walking Titan, quiet, unassuming, watching. She never asked him to stay, and he never offered. But he didn't leave, because some fights don't end when the threat disappears. They end when the system changes. And this time, it finally did.